States and the country, and that just shows you how important grassroots organizing is. Getting to those doors, making those phone calls, fundraising, having those tough conversations with your family members, am I right? Because this was a race that hadn't had an opponent since 1984. Y'all, I wasn't even alive then. So things are changing, momentum is there, and we need it to keep going. We know how pivotal this election is, right, in our history in America, how important 2020 is, all the races. So we need you to get out there and work it, because our environment is at stake, our healthcare is at stake, heck, the health of our democracy is at stake, gun violence prevention is at stake. So we need everybody to do their part, and you never know where it's going to turn out. A little over 4 years ago, I walked into an office off Pleasantburg to volunteer for an independent senator from Vermont running for president of the United States. And that really got me involved in the state party and the local party. There's high school chapters, there's huddles all over, there's, if you're here from a different part of South Carolina, you can get involved in the state party. There's all these things you can do, and jump on a campaign, because that's pretty dang exciting, right? So we all need to show up. I'm so excited, and hopefully I'll see you on this stage in 4 years.
Please welcome the man who needs no introduction, the one and only Dr. Cornel West.
Oh, what a blessing to be here. What a blessing to be here. Brother Bernie, Brother Bernie, Brother Bernie. 4 years ago, we made history by reshaping the discourse and making sure that the precious lives of poor and working people of all colors, of all genders, of all sexual orientations, of all regional identities here in this nation, in this precious democracy, and in this empire. We've got some imperial policies abroad. But we made history because Bernie Sanders had the vision, he had the courage, and most importantly, he had what Jane Austen called constancy, consistency, integrity, honesty. Isn't that a beautiful thing to have being an American politician? It's so few who have that kind of constancy. But this second time, we're going all the way. We're going to hit the finish line. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And we're going to hit the finish line because we're going to come together. We're going to accent something that we hold in common. And what is it that we hold in common? It is the dignity of what Sly Stone called everyday people, lifting their voices in such a way that it shapes their destiny and keeps the 1% accountable, not out of hatred, but out of justice, justice, justice. Oh, yes. And for many of us, it's just a matter of being on the love train, because justice is what love looks like in public. And this time, we shall see our dear brother Bernie Sanders bringing all of us together, not just an isolated individual as leader, but a leader who is immersed in the us, in the we, in each and every one of us. You will be the first one, South Carolina. You will be the first one in the legacy of Marion Wright Edelman from South Carolina, in the rich legacy of my dear brother Jesse Jackson in 1988, bringing everybody together in the legacy of Dizzy Gillespie, lifting his voice. The young folk, you are very much the vanguard, but bring some of us old school brothers and sisters too. Let us win in 2020 with our dear brother Bernie Sanders.
And now, please welcome actor and activist Danny Glover.
All right, hey. Oh, man. Yo. How are my fellow citizens doing out there? Huh? Give it up. Because you know we got work to do. We got work to do here in Greenville. We got work to do here in Carolina. We got work to do every place. We have to let our voice ring out that we want substantive change. We want substantive transformation in what is happening in this country. We know that it's important for not only this country, but it's important for the rest of the world. We know that we have the opportunity to win. We have the opportunity to talk about our country, not of its possibilities, but what it can do and what it will do. And it comes with us, ordinary citizens, democratic, ordinary citizens taking on the work of citizenship and electing a government that is for all the people. They're electing a government for all the people, not just him. This is what this is about. This is about having an opportunity for the future of this country, the future of this planet, the future of our children. We have this chance right here, right in front of us. We cannot sit back and say, let's do it tomorrow. We know we have to do it now, and we know who represents what we have to do right now is Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator Bernie Sanders. We know that. We know that. You know, we cannot fear and have fear in our hearts. We have to have the courage to do that work. Every single one of us. None of us who will have celebrity or whatever can abdicate their responsibility as citizens. I've had an opportunity to be born in a great moment in the world. To be born and watch the world begin the transformation. Begin to try to transform, begin to change. But we know that it has to go further. And that going further is representative about what we do today. So let's keep our spirits high. Let's go out here for the long fight, and right to win, to white to win. Bernie Sanders for president. Bernie Sanders for president.
And now, please welcome campaign co-chair, Senator Nina Turner.
Love you too, baby. This is some kind of special in this room. Want to thank Dr. West, Brother Danny Glover, and on behalf of my other co-chairs, Sister Mayor Carmen Cruz from San Juan, Puerto Rico, Brother Ro Khanna from the great state of California, and the humanitarian activist, chief ice cream maker himself, Ben Cohen from Ben & Jerry's. Greenville, it is an honor to be here. On behalf of the co-chairs in this campaign, on behalf of Senator Bernie Sanders, Dr. Jane Sanders, the entire family, we are proud to have, in the words of Dr. Cornel West, a long-distance runner for justice in Senator Bernie Sanders. In the words of brother Michael Render, a.k.a. Killer Mike, when he was asked the question, why does he support Senator Sanders and why does he stand out among everybody else that's running for president, he said you need the opposite of what's in the White House right now. You need Professor X for Magneto. Senator Sanders is authentic in every single way. What you don't have to worry about is him ever selling out to special interests. You're his only special interest. And isn't it amazing that every single other candidate is following his lead? He sets the lead. Almost 4 years ago when he talked about Medicare for all, folks thought he was dreaming too big and reaching too high. And now every single presidential candidate on the Democratic side is talking about Medicare for all. He sets the lead. When he talked about having a $15 an hour minimum wage, folks said you're reaching too high, you're dreaming too big. Now every single presidential candidate is talking about a $15 an hour minimum wage. And then, sisters and brothers in Greenville, if a sister might I just say that when Senator Sanders said he wanted to talk to everybody in this country, whether they agreed with him or not, and he had the audacity to go on Fox News. Now, lo and behold, it's just funny how that happens. Oh, Lord, they got it. See, they didn't tell me they had a cordless. AJ, you didn't tell me they had a cordless mic for a sister. Thank you, Ari. Because they know I like, he is a visionary. And he sets the tone. And he doesn't wait for polls and special interests to tell him what is just, for what is right and what is good. He stands up for the people, whether it's popular or not popular. That's what we have in Senator Sanders. So 2 things I want to bring to you. And I know that the senator is in the overflow. I need somebody to tell me when the senator is ready to come. But 2 things. Don't try to kick a sister off the stage that quick. 2 things. In the words of Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, what the people want is simple. They want an America as good as its promise. That is what Senator Bernie Sanders stands up for. An America that is good as its promise. And sisters and brothers, we got the receipts going back 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, that he has been consistent. And in the words of President Teddy Roosevelt, that none of us can live a good life unless all of us can live a good life. That's what Senator Sanders is standing up for. So he's not new to this. And so what we are looking for in leadership in the White House is somebody that understands from a lived experience. And Senator Sanders has that lived experience. His father came to this country as an immigrant from Poland at the age of 17 years old, escaping the Holocaust. Lived experience about why people come to this country to live a good life. Lived experience growing up in rent-controlled housing in Brooklyn. So he understands that nobody chooses poverty and that sometimes a system that is rigged can crush your spirit. Lived experience. The senator's mother died at a very young age. At the age of 46 years old, before she could realize her dream of owning a home. So Senator Sanders understands that for some folks in this country, and particularly in this state, as we've traveled all over the state, talking to folks who told the story about how they spend 50% of their income to have some place to live. The senator is committed to using the people's power on the people's behalf. And he knows and understands that in order for him to have this transcendence, this transformational change is going to take all of you, us together, shaking this thing up to have the change. Because when he does win the White House, he cannot do this alone. that Wall Street is not just going to roll over. The big corporations are not just going to roll over. But what it is going to take to push them over is people power in this country. What the people want is simple. We want an America as good as its promise. Or none of us can live a good life unless all of us live a good life. And that is what we are fighting for. So we cannot do this alone. So I need folks in this room to go to BernieSanders.com. You need to sign up. And if you are not one of those, we got over 1 million people who said they're going to volunteer across this country. You need to be one of those millions. So we need you to sign up because it's going to take all of that. And isn't it something? 3 minutes. Isn't it something? Sister, I'm warming this thing up. Isn't it something that we had over 1 million people across the country who said that they would volunteer, and that Senator Sanders has had over 1 million people donate to this campaign? People power, baby. People power. There is no power greater on this earth than a conscious-minded people from the rainbow mosaic of humanity on the move for causes that are just, right, and good. And our mission is so high, sisters and brothers, we can't get over it. And it's so low, we can't get under it. And it's so wide, we can't get around it. It is going to take all of us. So can you do something for me? I need you to raise one hand for yourself and one hand for somebody else. Can you do that with me? With these hands, we will have Medicare for all. With these hands, we will have college for all. With these hands, we will have clean water, clean food, and clean air. With these hands, we will take care of Mother Earth. With these hands, sisters, we will finally get our whole damn dollar. And with these hands, we will elect Senator Bernie Sanders, the next president of the United States of America. With these hands.
Greenville, thank you very much. And let me thank all of the many people in this beautiful auditorium. Let me thank all the people in the first overflow room. Let me thank all the people outside in the second overflow room. It's a great turnout. Thank you very much. And let me also thank Sarah Milonovich and Isaac Elderson and Adam Stoller for their great music. And thank Taylor Millard for singing the national anthem. Tina Belgi is making her presentation. And let me thank my good friends, Dr. Cornel West and Danny Glover from Dr. West is at Harvard now, and he came all the way here, and he has been doing a phenomenal job for his entire life in the struggle for justice. And I thank Dr. West for being here. And Danny Glover, you all know Danny as one of the great actors in America today. But some of you don't know that for Danny's entire life, going back many, many, many years, he has been in the forefront for the struggle for racial justice, economic justice, and social justice. And I just want to thank Danny not only for his support, but his years and years of struggling for justice in America. And I want to thank Sister Nina Turnip, who, it's always hard for me to follow Nina. Oh, God. What Nina has been doing for the last several years is the most important work that anybody in America can do. She's been going all over this country, getting people, young people, people of color, older people, involved in the political struggle. And that's what Senator Turner has been doing, and I thank her very much for all of her efforts. And tonight I just want to say a few things. And the first thing is we're here in Greenville, obviously, as part of our effort to win the Democratic nomination for President of the United States. We're here in Greenville as part of a campaign which is going to defeat Donald Trump. But importantly, I want to tell you that our struggle is not just to win the nomination and defeat Trump. Our struggle together is to transform our economy and our government so that we have a government that represents all of us, not just the 1%. So when we talk about as our campaign mantra, not me, but us, this is not just a bumper sticker, although it might be a bumper sticker. But what it means, and I say this with years of experience, is that no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone. No matter how well-intentioned the next president may be, he or she cannot do it alone because the special interests today, and I'm talking about Wall Street, and I'm talking about the insurance companies and the drug companies and the military-industrial complex, and I'm talking about the fossil fuel industry and the prison industrial complex. You got enormous amounts of wealth and power aligned in order to make the very rich even richer. And the only way that we do what has to be done is when millions of people, black and white and Latino and Native American, Asian American, gay and straight, immigrant, native born, stand together. And that's what this campaign is about, and that is what our government will be about. And we are talking about issues that not a lot of people in Congress or the media or anybody else are going to be talking about. We're talking about justice. Justice. We're talking about economic justice. We're talking about social justice. We're talking about racial justice. We are talking about environmental justice. And we are also talking about injustice. And injustice means, and you're not going to hear too many people talking about this, but we have got to, as a nation, deal with it. It is not just, it is not moral, it is not good economic policy when the three wealthiest families in America own more wealth than the bottom half of America. It is not right when the top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 92%. It is not just or right when in Vermont or in South Carolina you got people working 2 or 3 jobs, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, trying to pay the bills when 49% of all new income go to the top 1%. So what this campaign is about is standing up to corporate greed. It is standing up to large, profitable corporations that make billions in profit, but then shut down in the United States and go to cheap labor abroad. No more. Not acceptable. It is about standing up to corporations that provide tens of millions of dollars in compensation to their CEOs. CEOs now make 300 times in large corporations what their workers make, and we say that cannot continue to exist. Stop the greed. And when we talk about injustice, we say that it is not acceptable that 25 hedge fund managers in America earn double the amount of money that 140,000, all kindergarten teachers in this country earn. And when we talk about justice, it is not only dealing with the massive levels of income and wealth inequality, it is dealing with racial disparities in America as well. Black families should not be having 1/10 the wealth of white families. Infant mortality rates in the African American community should not be 2.5 times what it is in the white community. So when we talk about justice, we are talking about ending institutional racism in every form and in every part of this country. But it's not just economic justice we are fighting for. We are fighting to end a corrupt political system which allows billionaires to buy elections. You know, I come from a state where every year we have town meetings. Everybody comes and they argue about how much they want to spend on the roads and on the schools. And in those town meetings, every person gets one vote. One person, one vote. That, to me, is what democracy is about. It is not about billionaires as a result of this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. It is not about billionaires buying elections. And together, not only are we going to overturn Citizens United, we are going to move toward public funding of elections. And we are going to overturn, not only overturn Citizens United, but end voter suppression in this country once and for all. And let me say a word. You know, I'm a politician. I've run for office many times in Vermont. And in some parts of the state, we're really strong. Other parts of the state, not so strong. But it has never occurred to me, nor do I think most candidates, to figure out a way to keep people from voting because they might vote against you. What democracy is about is I come forward with my ideas, my opponents come forward with their ideas, you analyze them, you make your decision. So I say to those cowardly Republican governors all across this country who don't have the guts, they don't have the guts to engage in free, fair, and open elections. And I say to them, if you are afraid of democracy, get out of politics and get another job. Now, the truth is that politics is not all that complicated. Media sometimes makes it more complicated than it is. They focus on polls and fundraising and all that other stuff. But here is what politics is about in a democracy, what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be looking around you and seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, arguing with your friends and your neighbors about how we go forward. That's what democracy is about. It's looking at the problems facing our country, coming up with solutions, and deciding how we go forward. And I want to say something, and I want to thank the people of South Carolina and other states. When we began our campaign 4 years ago, the ideas that we were talking about were considered by the political establishment and the mainstream media as radical and extreme. Together, we have come a long, long way in the last 4 years. And let me give you just a few examples. 4 years ago, when I was here in South Carolina, I said that in America, if you work 40 hours a week, you should not be living in poverty, that we have got to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. Well, 4 years ago, I was told that that was an extreme and crazy idea. I'm happy to inform you that in the last several years, 6 states in our country have moved to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And I'm very happy to tell you that the relevant committee in the U.S. House of Representatives, the Education and Labor Committee there, some weeks ago, reported out of that committee a minimum wage bill of $15 an hour. And when that bill gets passed in the House and comes to the Senate, please do everything that you can to have your United States senators vote with us to end this absurdity of starvation wages in America. Let's have a living wage, $15 an hour. Four years ago, I suggested that in a competitive global economy, we have got to rethink public education in America. That in today's economy with an exploding technology, public education, which goes through kindergarten through the 12th grade, is no longer good enough, that we must make public colleges and universities tuition free. Four years ago, that was a radical idea. It ain't a radical idea anymore. We're seeing states and cities move exactly in that direction. And I believe from the bottom of my heart that if we're going to transform education in America, I want every kid in Greenville, South Carolina, every kid in Burlington, Vermont, to know no matter what their income is, whether they're poor, whether they're working class, whether they're middle class, that if they study hard, that yes, they will be able to get a higher education regardless of the income of their families. And when we talk about higher education, we're not just talking about college. A lot of very bright kids who don't want to go to college, who are great with their hands, they need the technical education that's available to them. And when we talk about education, it is beyond comprehension that we have over 40 million Americans today who are struggling with outrageous levels of student debt. I just met with some students from Howard University in my office a week or two ago. And they are all teachers. They're getting graduate degrees in education. And one guy said, you know, I'm working right now as a teacher. I am already $180,000 in debt. Now, how in God's name on a teacher's salary do you pay off that debt? Talk to a doctor, young doctor in Burlington, Vermont, $300,000 in debt. A dentist, $400,000 in debt. Our job is not to punish young people with insurmountable debt for the crime of getting a higher education. And that is why we will substantially lower student debt in this country. Our job is to understand that in our great country, the United States of America, we should not be the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. Four years ago, that seemed like a radical idea. Not anymore. The American people are catching on that it is totally insane that we have 30 million people uninsured, 34 million uninsured, and that many of you are underinsured with high deductibles and high copayments. The American people understand that it is totally absurd that we are spending twice as much per capita on health care as do any people of any other country. And the American people are sick and tired of the greed of the pharmaceutical industry, which charges us the highest prices in the world for the medicine we need. So tonight we say to the private health insurance industry, who make billions and billions of dollars in profit, today we say to the pharmaceutical industry, which makes tens of billions of dollars in profit, that whether you like it or not, the United States will join every other major country on earth. We're going to pass a Medicare for all single-payer program. And tonight, we say to Donald Trump, and the fossil fuel industry, that climate change is not a hoax, but it is in fact an existential threat to our country and every other country on earth. And whether the fossil fuel industry likes it or not, the United States will accept its responsibility to lead the entire world away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And when we do that, by the way, we're going to create millions of jobs, creating a more energy efficient transportation system, weatherizing our homes and our buildings, investing in wind, solar, and other sustainable energies. And tonight, we say to the prison industrial complex that we are going to bring about real criminal justice reform. We are sick and tired of having more people in jail over 2 million people, more people in jail than any other country on earth, including China, 4 times our size. We are sick and tired of spending $80 billion a year at the local, federal, and state level on locking up fellow Americans. And we say loudly and proudly that we are going to invest in our young people, in jobs and education, not jails and incarceration. And when we talk about criminal justice reform, we're talking about ending private prisons and detention centers. We are talking about the so-called war on drugs, which must end. Too many lives have been destroyed by people developing criminal records or being sent to jail for possession of marijuana. And I'm proud to tell you that over the last 4 years, we've come a long way on that issue as well. State after state are either decriminalizing the possession of marijuana or legalizing the possession of marijuana. And there are some communities around the country who are beginning to do the right thing and expunge the records of people who are arrested for marijuana. And tonight, when we talk about where we must go as a nation, we must end the demonization of undocumented people in this country. We need comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. We need to provide legal status to the 1.8 million young Americans eligible for the DACA program. And we need a humane border policy for those who seek asylum. America is not about and must never be about snatching babies from the arms of their mothers. And today we say to the large, profitable corporations, does anybody here happen to know how much Amazon paid in federal income tax last year? So we are told that we don't have enough money in this country to feed the hungry, to house the homeless. But we can have a regressive tax system in which major corporations like Amazon and others pay zero in federal income taxes. Well, I say to the 1% and I say to large, profitable corporations, together we are going to change that. The wealthy and large corporations will start paying their fair share of taxes. Let me tell you what this campaign is about. This campaign is about waging the largest grassroots operation in the history of American politics. Now, we have money, and we're going to be running 30-second ads. You'll see them on TV, and you'll hear them on the radio. But at the end of the day, the way we are going to win this campaign is by bringing millions of people into the political process to begin to stand up and fight for their rights. Now, what I'm very proud of that we already have over 1 million people signed up to roll up their sleeves and work on this campaign in every state in this country, and in fact, in every congressional district. On April 27th, we are going to be organizing house parties all across this country, and we already have 4,500 locations. So what this campaign is about, and what our government will be about, is not complicated. Right now, the reason that Congress and the White House give massive tax breaks to the wealthy and the powerful, and then Trump comes in with a budget that would cut Medicare and cut Medicaid and cut education and cut environmental protection. The reason that in the United States Senate there has been up to now zero discussion about raising the minimum wage, about dealing with climate change, about dealing in any significant and positive way with health care. The reason for all of that is that we have a government that is dominated by the very wealthy and large campaign contributors. What the political revolution is about are two fundamental things. Number one, it is creating an agenda that speaks to the needs of working families. That means creating decent paying jobs. That means ending disastrous trade policies that allow corporate America to throw Americans out on the street and go abroad and hire people at starvation wages. What our agenda is about, as I mentioned, raising the minimum wage to a living wage, making public colleges and universities tuition-free, guaranteeing health care to all people as a human right, demanding the wealthy and the powerful start paying their fair share of taxes. We can do it. And I know that these ideas to some people sound radical, but honestly they are not. They already exist in many other countries on earth. Do you know how much it costs to go to college in Germany right now? Anyone know? That's right. Do you know what kind of child care system exists in Finland and Sweden and Denmark? They have quality, affordable child care for their kids because they know their kids are the future of this country. All right? We can lead the world in transforming our energy system. We can do all of these things. Every idea that I mentioned to you is supported by a majority of the American people. We can have sensible gun safety legislation. We can make sure that women do not earn 80 cents on the dollar compared to men. We can make certain that a woman controls her own body, not the government. None of these ideas are radical. In one sense or another, they are supported by a majority of the American people. But we don't win if 40% of the people don't vote. We don't win if young people do not get involved in the political process. So what our job is number one, is standing up to a president who in an unprecedented way is trying to win cheap political points by dividing us up. We have a president who is trying to divide us up based on the color of our skin, based on where we were born, based on our religion, based on our sexual orientation. And what we say to Donald Trump, that is not what America is about. What America is about is bringing people together, not dividing us up. So if we keep our eye on the prize, and the prize is not complicated, the prize is making sure we no longer have the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country on earth, and that working family can find affordable and quality childcare. The prize is that we have the best educational system in the world and that we honor and appreciate our teachers. We can do all of these things. Trust me, they are not radical ideas. They are supported by the American people. We don't do it unless people get involved in the political process. Now, I am told that South Carolina is a conservative state. That's what I'm told. Well, you know what? I've been around the state a little bit, and I've talked to people who make $8 or $9 an hour. They want a living wage. And I have talked to people who cannot afford the health insurance that they now have. They believe that health care is a right. All of us should have health care and lower the cost. I talked to a farmer today, a farmer in South Carolina who is documenting what climate change is doing on his farm. People of South Carolina understand that we have got to combat climate change. So our job, and I promise you I'll do this, we're going to be all over this beautiful state. We're going to be in your urban areas, we're going to be in your rural areas. We're going to bring people together, and we are going to make this campaign and win this campaign on a campaign based on justice, based on an economy and a government that works for all. Let's go forward together. Thank you all very much.